Hi.
Welcome to Dope as Elle. We're taking a little bit of a literal meaning to Dope as Elle today because I'm interviewing here with me my friend Melissa Pierce. Melissa is a co-founder of the women's group Ellementa, and it's a wonderful group of women who are getting together and talking about cannabis on a regular basis. It's informational. I like to call it a women's club.
Kind of is.
It kind of is. I haven't been part of a club in a really long time. And so it's really fun to go to these events that you guys put together and meet incredible women who are doing incredible things in the community, or they are just there to learn and maybe pass along information. They're taking in information for themselves. It's really a great community to be part of. So tell me how you got started in Ellementa.
How I got started really was my co-founder, Eliza, had this idea for a women's group, a women's community of women meeting at gatherings all over the country to talk about cannabis wellness, because what she realized was that there wasn't a lot of relevant information out there for women specifically about cannabis wellness. You know, there's tons of information about how to party and, how to be social with it, et cetera, but there isn't a lot for women, especially women of a certain age, women 35 plus who are going through all kinds of things, who are raising families, who have careers, and don't necessarily want to be high all the time, but they do know that cannabis can help them with, pain and depression and anxiety and PTSD, and intestinal issues and all of these things. So we wanted to make that space where women felt safe and welcomed, and that they felt like they could talk to one another in a women's circle about issues that were relevant to them. So I hadn't tried cannabis until my 40s. So, until after Eliza approached me, actually. So for me, it wasn't like, oh, cannabis, this is the thing. Eliza basically said, this is what I want to build. Here is all of the information about what's going to happen in the cannabis industry in the next 5 years. Here are the numbers. And when she showed me the numbers, I was like, oh, I'm in. I'm in. This thing is going to flip. It's going to be legalized state by state by state and then federally, and I can see the numbers, and I want to make sure that women are there. I want to make sure we're represented and that we have a say in how this industry is built, and we have a say in how the products are made for us. And that's why Ellementa was a big deal to me, because it's important to have a woman's voice in her medical decisions, and the more informed she is, the better choices she's going to make for herself and her family.
So is there, how are women being represented in the community right now, in the industry?
Women comprise, I think, about 40% of the industry right now. And so that's high. It's still not parity, but it's much higher than, say, tech or law or any of these things. It's pretty high. But as it legalizes in more places and as regulation happens, more and more men are moving into this space, men who weren't in the space, who are in the space for different reasons, larger corporations. And so you're going to see that starting to go down unless as an industry, we really push women forward and push the spaces forward. As far as women's representation in what the industry is currently putting out, it still tends to be geared towards, this is a social drug, and here are a lot of pictures of women in bikinis ripping, 10-foot bongs or whatever, things like that. So it's not really representative of, the average cannabis consumer in Illinois is a 50-year-old woman with fibromyalgia.
Interesting.
So, there are probably some 50-year-old women out there with fibromyalgia that are wearing bikinis and ripping at it, 10-foot bombs, and more power to them.
Right.
But a lot of us are not. We don't kind of fall in that extreme. So getting in those places is really important.
Yeah.
To be able to get to women that are not comfortable with that particular imagery or who don't identify with that market. There's no reason they need to take a prescription drug for sleep if they can take something that's much gentler on their body a CBD capsule or just do a little vape of some flower and fall asleep easily. So we want to make sure that information is out there as well, so they can make these informed decisions and not have the stigma of what they thought cannabis was from, childhood DARE programs or reefer madness of the 50s or whatever.
Right. How do you feel that this group is kind of bringing women together to support one another?
Oh, well, that's the magic of the group. I don't know if we're supposed to call it this, but I really think about it. It's like a women's circle, like a women, there's like a women's moon circle. You all get together under the full moon or the new moon to pull the power of that new energy or to feel complete with one another. And it is a lot like a women's circle. We're there to support one another. We're there to learn from one another. We're there to just check in and say, you know what, I exist, I'm here, and I'm around women who give me power. And I'm here to be validated. And I think when you add a man to circles like that, and it's not that men's voices aren't important, because they are, but it changes the conversation and it changes the power dynamic, just because we do still live in a man's world. So we do need that dynamic of our sisters around us, regardless of, what walk of life she's from or where she is in her community. I mean, one of my favorite experiences at an Ellementa gathering was watching this 60-year-old grandmother talk to this 20-year-old woman about what actual childbirth is like. And this woman was just like aghast. She's like, I didn't know that happened. I didn't know this, I didn't know any of these things. Holy crap. Nobody ever told me that, having a baby feels a lot like this. But they were able to connect. And so knowing that I offered a space where both of them felt safe, and they felt like they trusted one another enough to open up about their own personal experiences when they had been strangers 30 minutes before. That's kind of where it's at.
Yeah. And not even talking about cannabis.
Well, they weren't even talking about cannabis. I mean, cannabis is definitely what brings them together. They're all curious about it or want to share about it. Or just want to feel like they're not alone in their consumption of it. But they certainly have a varied life. Most of them, cannabis isn't their life. Now, some of them, cannabis is their life. They're in the industry. This is the thing that saved them, and it's a thing they just want everyone to be saved by. So there are all kinds of people that come to it, people who haven't touched it at all and just want to see what it's about. So we get a good mix of women at our events.
And what kinds of topics are coming up at these events? I know you're holding like a monthly event here in Chicago right now. What are you talking about?
Well, we have a national events calendar that most of the gatherings, I think there are 44 gatherings now, and so they all meet monthly all over the world. We have one in Spain, we have one in Mexico, we have a couple in Canada, we have several across the United States, and we're just kind of exploding outwards and just trying to keep up with people coming into us being like, oh, we want to start a gathering here.
That's like, so cool.
Okay, let's figure out when we can make that happen. But we talk about all kinds of things. Our national calendar, I think next month is pain. So cannabis and pain, and women, cannabis and pain. How do women experience pain differently than men? And how can cannabis help or hinder this? So it's pretty broad like that. But for instance, in Chicago next month, or this month actually, we're having a tincture making class. So it's not even specifically cannabis. It's more like, do you want to make your own herbal medicines? Well, here you can make a tincture, and you can, make an echinacea tincture because it's cold season coming up, and echinacea has been shown to improve immune health. Or, if you want to take that knowledge home that you learn in our class, you can definitely apply that to cannabis. And there are specific ways that we can teach you how to make that. So it's really just, if you think about anything that applies to your health or your mental health or your well-being, Ellementa has those classes. In October, we're doing elevated new moon yoga.
Okay, so you're kind of bringing in all of the elements of the woman.
Right, and certainly that yoga, moving around, doing that new moon yoga is very restorative. And, doing yoga under a new moon is supposed to bring you like renewed strength and power, and that's great. And it's not, you don't have to be high or elevated to do it. It's just a canna-friendly environment. So certainly if you show up and you're obviously high, we're not going to turn you away, because that is also a way that a lot of people practice their yogic movement, because it does loosen you up and it does calm you down and it does make it easier to move and just be present with your own body and your own self, which I think is a lot of what we struggle with in the modern world. It's just being present in ourselves.
For sure. So are these consumption events, or is it something that you could, like you said, you could show up high, but we're not going to turn you away by any means. But it's not legal everywhere. So how do you...
Ellementa, they're not consumption events.
Okay.
These are not events where we're going to be offering anything, where we encourage you to do anything. Certainly, in Chicago, in Illinois, if you have a medical card and need to medicate during the event, you can get up and come back in. So these things are permissible, but it's certainly not like, oh, this is an excuse for us all to consume together. That's not exactly it. It's really more about sharing stories and sharing experiences and being present for one another as we all take this journey. Because cannabis is not super well regulated yet, or well understood in the medical community yet, a lot of women are like, well, I don't know the proper dosage, or I don't know how to take this with this or this with this. And it's really kind of experiential at this point. It's like, well, this is what I experienced when I did that. And this is what, I have learned in my journey. And so other women can compare notes and know that it is a process to figure out like how much of a specific thing works for you and which thing works for you and how it works for you and, when to use it.
Yeah. For a woman who may be new to exploring cannabis, what kinds of suggestions do you have for them?
I mean, do your research.
Yeah.
Do your research. One, if a claim about cannabis seems too good to be true, it probably is. Just like any other wonder drug or special miracle, berry or whatever. Do your homework. If there isn't a site that speaks to you, go to Ellementa. We have some very basic information about cannabis. We try to share only reputable information that has been backed up by science. And ask your friends. And if you're afraid to ask your friends, come to an Ellementa meeting, because there are certainly a lot of women around there that are going through the same thing you are, where they're still... There's still that stigma, and you don't want to talk to your friends about doing something that maybe they have in their mind is wrong. And of course, I've made that whole 180 flip, right? I grew up in a conservative household. I went through the DARE program. I really thought people who did drugs were just using them as a crutch. And I didn't really understand that cannabis wasn't part of some of this. And that I really had to just change the way I thought about things. Just those paradigms changed.
And the information that is accessible now that wasn't accessible
exactly
20 years ago.
Exactly.
Right? Because it was a social thing for most people.
Well, before it was a social thing, it was a medicinal thing. Right. So this is a really interesting part of our American history is that we took this incredible medicine and we basically demonized it because it was convenient for whatever our nationalist agenda was. It was convenient to demonize this drug. And then this medicine becomes a social drug that is just a little bit risky. Funny thing about that is when I tried it as a social drug, it was terrible for me socially. It wasn't something that I wanted to do socially. And I think a lot of people have this experience where it didn't open them up social and make them want to do anything. It made them want to go home and make art or go to sleep or all of these things. And so I think a lot of people get turned off or have gotten turned off because, I don't want to feel that way around a bunch of people. And it really...
The paranoia for some people.
Right. Just different strains of cannabis do different things for different people. And cannabis reacts differently with different people because your body has its own endocannabinoid system, a system that actually makes its own cannabinoids, which is what's in cannabis. THC and CBD are cannabinoids. And your body makes those. So, everyone's body is different. Everyone's body is looking for balance. And maybe the way that your body needs to balance is different than the way, Susie Q's body needs to balance. And so your body's going to react differently to that plant medicine.
So even hearing one woman's story about how something affected her, it might not be the same for you.
It might not be the same for you. But hearing several women's stories where you can say, okay, you know what? That particular strain worked the same way in 6 women. So I'm going to guess that it's going to work the same way in me. But if it doesn't, I heard from these 2 other women that this is what happened for them and they found this other thing. So it gives you something. It is kind of like you're experimenting with yourself. But then again, cannabis is such a mild medicine that you're not going to hurt yourself. No one is overdosed from cannabis. That I know of. I think I think you would have to take 600 times smoke 600 or 1,000 something joints. I can't remember what it is, but it's a lot. It's not physically possible. Most people who take too much usually just go to sleep. So that's
not a problem.
That's kind of a thing. It doesn't affect the part of your brain that regulates heartbeat or breathing or any of that. So in that way, it's really hard to overdose from it.
Interesting. Okay. How are there different products out there that would be for women as opposed to men?
There are some really good products that only work for women.
Really?
Which is great.
That's fascinating.
I mean, I guess not only, but there are tons of different products out there. You can ingest through capsules or edibles. You can do tinctures. You can do sublinguals, which is when you put it in your cheeks because things develop or absorb really fast there. You can smoke the flower or the actual plant itself. You can smoke oil, which we call vaping. There are lotions. There are body rubs. I have a sugar scrub in my I know, I don't know.
Sugar scrub.
It has CBD in it.
Interesting.
Well, this is very relaxing anyway.
Yeah, right?
So why not just add some more relax on top of it, I guess. I had a bath bomb. There are also sexual lubricants, which are great in that a lube is only going to work for where your mucous membranes are. So if you're using a lubricant for heterosexual sex, I mean, that's not going to do a lot for your partner. Your male partner doesn't have any of those mucous membranes, those membranes in on their penis. But you, as a woman with a vagina, have a lot.
Right.
So you're going to absorb all of the THC and CBD that is in that lubricant, and you're going to get that high in this lower part of your body, which is a totally different experience. So there are suppositories for when you have cramps.
Oh
and so,
my gosh.
Right. You can just, pop one in, put your feet up for 30 minutes, and it will alleviate your menstrual cramps and kind of relax all of that. So that's nice. So there are a lot of things that women can use that men, they're not made for men.
Yeah. That's great.
So that's a good thing.
I would assume these are women-made products too, so you'd be supporting women businesses.
Well, not all of them are. I mean, if you want to support women businesses, you need to look up who's making these products.
Yeah.
There are several companies that make products for women that are actually run by men. But there are several that aren't. So if you're interested in supporting women's businesses, just do a little bit of homework.
Yeah.
The cannabis space is still small enough that you can type in the name of a product, come up to their website, and their About Us will actually show the founders, and that's kind of wonderful.
Yeah, it is. You mentioned CBD. Tell our viewers what CBD is, first of all, and then how it differs from other cannabis products.
Okay, well, CBD is a cannabinoid. As I said before, you remember the endocannabinoid system that's all throughout your body. Your body makes its own cannabinoids. And we've all heard about THC, which is kind of the part of cannabis that gets people high, kind of elevates them. It's kind of that head high that you feel. CBD is the anti-inflammatory or the relaxant in cannabis. Now they work together really well. I always talk about THC kind of like the quarterback that brings through the relaxing inflammation reducing part of CBD.
Okay.
You kind of need them both to work together, although you don't have to have them both. They just work better together.
Okay.
But CBD is also derived from the hemp plant, which is basically the same thing as a cannabis plant, but only has much less THC. And this is a differentiation that was just made up by the government to say what could be grown, industrialized for food products or for rope or for clothing, and what was totally illegal to grow because it might give you this head high and, God forbid, you are going to feel good. The government does not want you to feel good, I guess.
But buy our pharmaceuticals.
Okay, totally different discussion. So CBD is available in a lot of products. You can find it online. You can find it in most apothecaries. They usually carry it behind the counter. It's available in capsules and oils and rubs. You can add a little bit to your coffee every day. You can do a lot of things with CBD. They make a lot of muscle relaxant, kind of like a tiger balm with them and stuff like that, which is great. And I think CBD is legal in all 50 states. Some of them have been regulated differently, but it is kind of in that gray area of you can 100% make a food product or a beauty product with it.
Okay. So maybe an alternative to cannabis with high amounts of THC.
Access.
Yeah.
Where you can't get it legally and you don't know about the quality of the product and you don't know where it's grown, then CBD is a good option because you can still trace those things back. But certainly if you were really timid about, the head high part of it, if you weren't ready to hit that, or you work some kind of job where you're drug tested often, then this might be an alternative to that. It's not going to give you the head high, but it is going to give you that, hopefully that body relax, and that anti-inflammatory effect. And there are so many things in our environment that are inflammatory. So that's nice about CBD.
Okay. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the fact that you have founded or co-founded a company here. And you have been in the startup space for a while.
Sure.
You and I met because of Everpurse, another startup. And you were doing marketing and I was helping write some stuff for the website. What is a founder's life like? It's a big question.
That's a big question. And it really depends on where you are in your startup. At this point in Ellementa, we're still not taking salaries. Basically, everything that we make for the company is going right back into the company. So that's part of it, is that part of being a founder is either being independently wealthy and being able to do it, getting funded right away, which is not normally how it happens, or, working your side hustle that actually pays for your lavish lifestyle of peanut butter and jelly and wine for cheers,
which is delicious,
for lunch, so that you can build a company which you have risked at least a year of your life on, like your well-being, to like make happen because you believe that it's going to be a big deal. So that's kind of the life of the founder is, you have these three options. You can be independently wealthy, you can work your day job and then work your startup, or you can languish in poverty until your startup hits, or you can get founded. Or not funded. And funding is not always the play you want to make,
Interesting.
Because Ellementa dealt with cannabis even in the ancillary. We don't touch the plant. We don't do any of that. But we were unable to get bank loans because we are involved in the cannabis industry some way. So if you're thinking of starting up and you don't know how to get investment, and you think you can get a bank loan, you might think again and try to think through a different strategy for building that business.
Yeah. What's it been like? This wasn't your original idea. You were pulled in, but as a co-founder. But is it helpful to have these two other women on your side, like in your court, working on this?
Of course. And we all bring different things in. Whereas I'm a systems thinker. My gosh, do I like building businesses, because I like putting together systems. I like policies. I like figuring out how stuff is going to work. Aliza, my co-founder, the founder of the company, she loves marketing. She loves editorial. She loves writing. That stuff makes her come alive. All I want to do is let her do that and like push her out to be the spokesperson of the company any chance I get, because she's just fabulous. Ashley, our other co-founder, is incredible at like grassroots marketing, which, because cannabis is regulated, we can't get to all of these. We can't advertise the way that most companies do. But Ashley is kind of like just she's like, here, let me go on Instagram and get people to come to your events. And I'm like, what? And she's like, you just do it like this. You just have all these she just does her thing. And she's excellent at like, she's kind of our shaking hands and kissing babies. She just gets in there and meets everyone and knows everything. And that's really important, to have someone like that who's super into the industry on your team.
So your day-to-day life, you also have kids.
Yeah.
You're in a relationship. You founded a business. You are maybe doing a little bit of work on the side to bring in some money. What's your day look like? Like, what time do you wake up?
I cannot help myself. I wake up in between 5:30 and 6 almost every single day.
Has that been like that your whole life? Or are you just an early riser?
I'm just an early riser.
Oh, go away. Does that mean that what time do you go to bed at night?
It depends on what I have to do.
Okay.
I mean, at some point I get very tired and I end up going to bed like at 9:30, right after I get my kids to bed. Sometimes before I get them to bed, I'm like, just mom's tired. You put yourself to bed, and they're fine. They're old enough now where they can put themselves to bed.
Yeah.
But it's waking up, just like preparing yourself for your day. Maybe if you can, you like push in a little yoga so you feel good about your body. Then it's rushing out the door with all of my children and getting to the various places they need to go for school in the morning. And then it's coming home and, spending the first part of the morning doing, contract work so that I can actually make a living. And then spending the rest of the day doing Ellementa until it's time to pick up my kids again. And then doing the whole juggle of dinner and partner and children and business. And Ellementa is a distributed team. So, I'm in Chicago. My co-founders are in Alaska and Denver, and they're on totally different time zones.
Yeah.
So, it's just balancing that. Like, when's my actual work day and when's my family time? And I have to be very strict about that. But I know that every day that I work Ellementa, I have to do something to push it forward so that we are, making enough revenue to continue to exist until we can hit our next jump point.
Yeah.
Which is happening now, which is great. I mean, we are cash positive if we don't pay ourselves, but in a moment we're going to be cash positive because we can't help it.
That's awesome.
And that's lovely.
Mm-hmm. And that's been a couple years in the works already?
It's been a year and a half. So
Okay.
it's taken us some time to build up this momentum, but now it's kind of time. It's
Yeah.
our time. It's our kind of our make or break time.
Where do you see this going? What's the future of Ellementa?
The future of Ellementa is, of course, still gatherings, is still, having gatherings all over the country, is still having sponsorship and having these communities. But we've also built on top of that kind of a product discovery and market research channel, because we now do have all of these women all over the world coming to Ellementa meetings and coming to our website and joining our groups that want to know more about cannabis and do want to shape the cannabis industry so that it's friendlier to women, honestly. So it carries products that we want. So we are doing much more market research. We are doing much more product discovery. We just sent out this new kind of vaporizer battery to markets all over the country and had them try it and test it and then tell us what they thought. And so we're bringing back this information, how can you make this better for women and what did all of these women think and all of that stuff. So we really kind of see ourselves playing more into this. If you need market research about women and cannabis done, we're kind of the place to come for that. So we really hope that that's going to be a much bigger thing, because we have this giant network of women and the cannabis industry would be real idiots not to take us up on a network that we built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So I'm going to switch gears and ask you some Melissa questions. What are you reading right now?
I just finished reading Devotion by Patti Smith.
What's that about?
It is a short story that she wrote about a girl who lost her parents and is growing up in Poland, or in Russia, I'm sorry, and is obsessed with ice skating. And she meets a man, and it's all about her devotion to ice skating and what happens when this relationship happens, where he basically is like, give yourself to me and I'll help you fulfill this dream. But within, this story is squished between two other writings by Patti Smith. One is just like, I'm writing about my day, blah, 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 blah. This is how I came up with the story. This is what I was doing, which is really wonderful. And I haven't read the end yet. So, it's that and a book about ethics and then a book about the history of American cinema.
Wow, you're really broad scope there. Yeah, because American cinema, you're also a filmmaker.
That's right.
Yeah, because you have,
I'm large. I contain multitudes.
Yeah, I want to hear about your filmmaking experience, actually, because you've been working on something for a while.
I have.
When did you start filmmaking?
I started filmmaking when I realized that in order to meet powerful people, I had to appeal to their ego, and I could tell them I was making a documentary. And all I had to do basically was set up a camera and hook a microphone to them, and they were just like, I'll tell you anything. Yes. So that's really how that started.
Cool.
I made a film called Life in Perpetual Beta, which is all about how the internet was changing the way people behaved and what that was going to be like, and could we be more spontaneous, and did we have to plan things, and is the unplanned life worth living, which is basically kind of my premise. So it was very philosophical and talked to all of these people who kind of, changed the internet a little bit, or who were luminaries at the time. And that was a super fun project. It won some film awards, which was great and amazing. I mean, they were for merit. It's not like I'm the world's best filmmaker, but they were for this was so well thought out and so poorly executed. We're going to give you an award for merit.
For merit.
I know. This is, man, how great is that? But then I started making another film, which has been now almost 4 years in the making.
Wow.
It takes a long time to make a film when you have a limited budget and also try to make a living at the same time. But also it's a biography about Rear Admiral Grace Murray Hopper, who was one of the very first computer programmers in the world, and about her life story. And the thing about biography is that it takes a really long time to make. Not just because it's someone's life and you don't want to get it wrong, but it's also a story about the beginning of tech. And to get that wrong would be like hundreds and hundreds of well actuallys coming back at me if I don't get it right. So it has taken a long time to make this specific film because Grace Hopper lived for a near century. She was born in 1906. She died in the mid 80s, and she was alive when the Model T came out.
Wow.
She was alive before electricity was in New York City, before all the houses had electricity. And she died right at the height of personal computing. So she spans this gamut of women's liberation and the civil rights movement and 2 wars and Vietnam. And all of these things. And so there's such a wealth of information out there. How do you tell someone's story when there's that? So it has taken a long time, but we get closer and closer, and hopefully we'll be finished with it by the end of the year.
Oh, that's exciting.
But it has taken a long time to make, and it's been really fun. But I always say I'll never make another biography. I'm happy to make like a fictitious film, like an actual movie with characters and a script. After these last 2 documentaries, it's kind of like, let's go find everything out and then synthesize it. Turns out there's a lot to find out. If someone has lived over 80 years, you have to synthesize a lot of information.
Right. And I'm assuming you weren't talking to her.
She was already dead.
Yes. Okay.
But I was talking to people who worked with her. And I mean, they're all in their 60s and 70s now as well. So, I mean, they're all moving on, and I'd like to get this out before they all kind of pass on as well.
Yeah.
So they can actually be there and see the film and see themselves in it and remember. That's
exciting. And to tell a woman's story.
I think that's kind of paramount for me. That's kind of run through my whole thing. There was Everpurse, which you mentioned, the handbag that charged your cell phone.
Super cool product.
Super cool product. I did not found that. I was just on the founding team. A woman named Liz Salcedo founded that, and she just thought, why don't I have this? I keep running out of batteries, and it's stupid to carry around these when I could just put it in the pocket.
Yeah.
So that was great. It was the Chicago Women Developers, which was a not-for-profit I founded, which was women getting together to teach each other how to program computers and work on their projects together, which is still going strong as far as I know. No longer a not-for-profit, but just a wonderful group that gets together every week.
Cool. So women's work.
Women's work.
Yeah.
That's right. We're just there for each other, and I think that's kind of an important part of like my particular makeup is that I want to build companies that are good for women.
Yeah, and we need so many more of them in the world, don't we?
I'll just work on flipping them out, I guess. You guys can work on flipping them out too, yeah?
We all will. That's our new pact.
Good.
Do you watch TV?
Yes.
Okay. Just feel like when would you have time?
When I'm worn out. Actually, my partner made this observation the other day when he asked if I wanted to watch TV with him, and I was like, you know what? What's the difference? A little more work, a little more TV. They're the same thing. I have to keep my eyes open. So at some point, it is. There is a point. There is a point where it's not an escape and it's not entertainment. It's just like you are socially obliged to be awake at that time. But I do watch television on occasion.
What do you watch? What do you like watching? Is there like a genre?
I like magical realism, so there's not a lot of...
What's that mean, magical realism?
It's a little romantic. It's a little like... what is this one? Like Amelie or the Whatever Life of Walter Mitty. It's just a little far-fetched.
Got it.
A little magical. There could be fairies. You don't know. It's just real enough and fantastical enough to not be there. But I haven't seen one of those as a sitcom or anything, or like a an actual serialized thing in a while.
Yeah.
I think like Anne with an E might be the closest.
Mhm.
And it was okay. I'm watching the new oh my gosh, I forgot his name. All the Marvel stuff that we're watching the new Luke Cage.
Yep.
Just watched Jessica Jones. Love me some Jessica Jones.
Yep.
So we watched that. I also watched something on Netflix called The OA recently.
Okay.
I started watching it at 10 o'clock at night and didn't finish it until 6 in the morning.
Okay.
I was just
total binge.
Total glued to it. Could not move. I couldn't go to sleep until I knew what would happen next.
Got it.
And I'm considering watching it again. But it is like emotionally intense, and I can't get buy-in from anyone else to watch it with me again. They're like, listen, I still need to process what I saw
the first time.
Right. And I was like, I need to see this again. I need to feel that way again. I know it's not going to be that way, but
yeah.
So I don't watch a ton of television because I don't have the time. But
right.
Sometimes you just need to be still and do nothing. And if you are obliged to stay awake, this is a really good avenue. Like, it's totally socially acceptable.
Yes, agreed. Other things in your world. I mean, we're sitting in your bedroom / office that is like covered with crystals and plants and a banjo and a couple of violins. Music, a big part of your life?
Music is a big part of my life. I don't get a lot of time for it. I play the viola and I play the violin, and I love them. And this used to be something that I would just play for myself as kind of a self-soothing thing. But I don't often have time to myself where I feel like I need to do it. So I haven't picked them up in a while. But they're here for me if I need them. And they're kind of like... they're my babies. They're, when I feel like I really need to just get into myself, I'm probably going to pick up my viola and violin and play something for myself. So I don't play out. I'm not interested in doing that, but I do love it.
That's so cool. I played the violin for like 10 years myself, so I get it, but mine is like stored away and doesn't have an E string anymore. Like, we're in a situation with the violin.
You need some time.
Yeah.
You need some time apart.
Yeah. And you're also a Reiki master.
I am.
That's super cool. What made you decide to go for that?
I had just finished a job doing feminist finance. Which is gender lens investing, which is how can you invest in something with a gender lens? So how can this be better for women?
Interesting.
Which is really interesting when you look at it, because most investments are built on like, oh, this is going to be really good. But, if you invest, say, we always talk about this as an example, if you invest in a new factory and you're like, we're going to make this factory green, so we're going to put lots of bushes in the parking lot. And then you realize that no women are coming to work your night shift because there are too many shadows and too many places for bad guys to hide and they don't feel comfortable. So it's even looking at like that kind of investment. Like, what are you actually investing in? Is this investment good for women? How many levels can you look into that? Can you build childcare into your terms of service? Like all of this stuff. And it was super great to do that. But this project wrapped up. And I had all this money that I had been saving while working on the project, and I called it my fuck you money.
Everybody needs some, right?
Everybody needs some. So I had all this money saved, and I decided that for 6 months to a year, I was going to explore all of this spiritual side of myself that I hadn't allowed myself to do because I was too busy trying to present myself as this very intelligent, very tech-focused, like very business-oriented woman, and I had kind of left this spiritual side of myself behind. So I took some psychic meditation classes. I did a lot of yoga, and then I also took Reiki classes and became a Reiki master, which is someone who can teach Reiki to students. And I haven't actually used it. And when other Reiki masters hear that, don't be mad at me. They're always like, for shame, you have this talent and you should use it. And I just really needed to know all there was to know about this one specific thing, because I'm a big proponent in self-healing, a big proponent in being able to feel the energy in yourself and be in tune with other people's energy, and combining that intimate space of not only the communication of words and the communication of body language, but actually the communication of body energies to heal yourself and to heal other people. I believe that that's totally possible.
That's probably been a huge help for you in the different worlds that you're spanning.
Sure, it definitely taught me how to look at the world differently. Now when someone says they're holding space for someone, I definitely see that in a different way.
What does that mean? I hear that all the time, and I'm like, does that just mean like being there for someone? What does holding space mean to you?
Holding space means that you are actually giving room to this person's gamut of information or gamut of emotions, or, it means allowing them to be themselves somewhere. Like whether that's you're there for them and you're not, but it is giving them room to go through what they're going through, and, being that support for them. So if I were holding space for you because you were having an especially bad day, I would be letting you be in that, having a bad day, without telling you how much it sucked that you couldn't just feel better right away. So I'm holding space for that. I'm holding space for my children when they get home, that they're going to take some time to shift. They're going to take some time to shift out of school, and all of those things. So that's what holding space is just kind of making room for people. And energetically, you're thinking about that energetically. Like their energy is going to come in and it's going to feel really heavy. How am I going to protect myself from that heaviness and still let them have that, because they need to work through it? So that is energetically a little bit different than just letting someone vent and then saying, do you want me to solve this, or do you just need to listen? All of these things.
And without maybe taking on that energy yourself.
Right. Which, that's transference that's what it's called. That's a really hard thing.
Yeah.
You taking on because when someone else is angry, you feel it. When you're angry, you tend to assume other people are angry or upset or doing things purposefully to make you angry. So this happens with everyone, and it takes a lot of presence that not everyone always has to be able to do that.
Interesting. So I was hoping that you could teach us a little Reiki. Is that something that you can teach in 5 minutes? Is there a 5-minute kind of some cleansing or something? I don't know any of the terminology, so forgive me, anyone who's she's crazy. Is it something that's, you said you're a master, so you can teach something, but is it
Sure.
hey, I need 5 hours of your time to do that?
Well, I would need a lot of hours of your time to do it. You can practice Reiki on yourself. You're supposed to be attuned by a Reiki master. So this is there's a lot of preparation that goes with this to get this Reiki power.
Okay.
Now, do I believe in the hierarchy of Reiki? I don't know. I just took the classes,
Yeah.
But it is really just sitting with yourself, noticing your body. So you can kind of put yourself in a quiet place, notice your body, breathe deeply like you would meditating or with yoga, and then actually just moving your hands to these places.
Okay.
So if you're thinking about Reiki, you think about the energy in your hands, you think about the energy of your body, and you might start just, putting your hands over your head or on your head and think about healing energy, and then putting your hands on your neck and putting your hands on your chest.
So the chakra points.
And on your stomach and on your solar plexus, and just continuing down with this and down your legs and down to the soles of your feet to kind of let that energy come out.
Okay.
So it is really just a being present. It is just being present in your body, and I think that's the thing. I could totally show you how to take a self-timer.
Yes,
however,
this is the most important
which
thing that we're
is
learning today.
something that something that I know I did just a moment ago.
Yeah. I watched her
and-
take this picture of herself as we're drinking wine and eating PB&J, and she sets it up, and it had a self-timer, and I was like, I have no idea how to do that. Is that how everyone's making great Instagram posts? So
Okay.
she's going to teach us now.
So I'm going to teach you how to do this. And if you have an iPhone, it's super duper easy. When you open up your picture app, there's this thing, this bar up at the top that has a lightning bolt, HDR, a clock, and 3 little colors, which is like changing. The 3 little colors is like when you change the
filter,
the
right?
filter.
Okay,
Right.
I do know that.
Okay. Well, right next to that is the clock.
Timer. Come on,
There's
this
a
was
timer.
so easy all along.
And there's a 3-second setting and a 10-second setting. And then you just push the button
And it
set it
counts
up.
down.
and it counts down. So it's going to take